Well, good Friday morning. It's Dr. Bill Williams here again on the Influencers Podcast. I'm so glad you joined us today. Whether it's live or in recording, we have a global audience of 190 countries, and I'm so proud that all of you tune in and check out what's going on the Influencer Podcast. We always bring in interesting guests, and today, no less than the best. We're going to talk with Raphi Salem of SalemGlobal digital marketing. And so I want to bring Raphi in right now. Hello from New York. Good to see you.
Live from New York, it's Raphi Salem. Thank you, Dr. Bill.
So good. So good. Saturday Night Live was one of my favorites. So anytime you can lead off with live from New York, I'm already transported into another place.
I like the way that you said was, because we're not going to spend so much time on this, but obviously the original Saturday Night Live cast and show was iconic, and now it's just a good show.
Yeah, it's just a has-been show now. I know.
Yeah.
Garrett Morris, Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, those are my guys.
Yeah. We're talking the same language.
Yeah, I love that. Coneheads. What more could you want? They
Everything.
were iconic.
Just classic.
Hey, it's Friday. We're in the Christmas season. It's Hanukkah going on right now. Everything's up for grabs. So let's open a present. Let's talk about Salem Global a little bit. We'll talk about you and what you're doing. And what I want to do is give our audience some fun, give them a present for Christmas. Tell us about yourself and how did you get going with your marketing CityMastermind?
So we'll talk about a couple of things. First of all, CityMastermind is a relatively new. It's a relatively new venture. So we'll talk about that in a moment. What I will start off with is that my background is in television and advertising. I don't know if anyone on your podcast is as young as we are, but there
a lot of
used
them
to
are
be
younger.
there used to be an industry. There used to be an industry called television, and there used to be 3 television channels when we were growing up. There was ABC, NBC, and CBS, and that was it. That was the game. And then local channels started coming up. I was a kid in the 70s, and what I did was I turned on the TV, and I was glued to that TV. So that was through my childhood, through my teen years. And my parents woke me up from a teenage sleep one day and said, what are you going to do with your life? And I said, I'm going to make commercials. I'm going to go into the advertising business. And I hope this is a pluralistic audience. My Jewish parents said to me, Jews don't go into advertising. So I didn't know anything about a glass ceiling. I didn't know anything about the world. I just knew that I loved to watch television, and I wasn't necessarily interested in producing content, but I loved the idea of commercials. And at the age of 15, I put on a suit, went into New York City from Long Island, where I grew up, and I went to a gala dinner of advertising professionals. And everyone at my table said, so whose kid are you? Thinking that some big ad exec brought their son to the gala. And I said, no, I'm just here. I'm just here to learn and meet some people. I didn't know what networking was, and I was doing it at the age of 15. So pushed to college, and I start learning psychology. And my mother says to me, don't go into psychology. Psychology is really hard. You have to be an empath. And then you take in everything that your patients are bringing in. And I'm like, my mother actually has a point. I'm going to go into behavioral psychology. And related to behavioral psychology is consumer psychology. And
Ding, ding,
related to
ding.
behavioral and consumer psychology is advertising.
Yeah.
What motivates people? And after being at BBD&O Advertising, NBC Television, and CNN International, I fell into right place, right time. I fell into the internet. So the internet was starting up. I got involved with one of the first Israeli technology internet companies, and 1996 was the first year that I had started working on the internet, and by 1997 I was running Salem Global. I started up, and that is the background to my journey to get into the internet industry.
Well, that sounds like a real winning combination of where you've been and what you've done. Did you run across Ted Turner at CNN?
He was probably at that dinner. um, I, I don't know if you heard this, but I was a young pup. I didn't meet Ted Turner when I was at CNN. I wasn't in Atlanta.
Yeah. You were a wonderkind. You were absolutely growing up in the age of these things happening right there in front of you. I remember Captain Courageous, aka Ted Turner, founder of CNN, but more importantly, owner of the Atlanta Braves.
Aha.
I brought him to TBS, became America's team.
Yeah.
That was some fun years. Being from Atlanta, that's kind of very memorable for us.
Yeah.
Now, tell us something that really, along the way, shocked you, shook you. You learned something because something you did didn't work.
I have a number of stories like that. I'll try to keep this a little brief. Number one is I remember going to a trade show at the Jacob Javits Center in New York City, and I met this random guy, and I was trying to promote my services in digital marketing to a very early audience. People didn't have websites, and they had no clue what digital advertising or marketing was. And he said to me something very interesting that I didn't get right away, but it became clearer. It was about entrepreneurship. As an entrepreneur, you can work for someone else or you can start up your own business. Those are the two options. As an entrepreneur, what he was saying is that don't just be a cow, don't just be a farmer, own the farm. Own the farm. And that took on a number of different meanings. In a service-based industry, if you're just serving your clients, you are only as valuable as your client. And what that means is that your client can always go elsewhere. So client service-based industries and businesses are really, really hard. And what he was saying is that own something. So don't just be that entrepreneur. Don't just start up a service-based business, but have assets. And at the time in the late 90s, a very important thing was domain names. So Dr. Bill, I don't know if you own influencerspodcast.com. I don't know if you own a different domain name, but I took this on as a mission. So the aha moment for me was buying domain names that were still available in the late 90s. Now it's 2023. You can't buy domain names that are worth too much in this day and age. But throughout my career, one of the greatest successes that came out of that was that I had bought and sold about 1,000 different domain names. Now, the failure part of the story was that about 950 of those domain names were not worthwhile. I had invested in a lot of car and auto industry related domain names. And I owned NewYorkHonda.com, NewYorkMercedes.com, New York Hyundai, New York BMW.com. And then I got a cease and desist letter from Hyundai Corporate. and they said, not only will you cease and desist to own this domain name, but you're going to owe us money, and we're going to spread this to our colleagues. And although I had a great idea with the domain names, about 950 of them were, well, 200 of them were in the auto industry, but about 950 really weren't relevant. So what was a great idea and what was very profitable for some was also one of my biggest failures, because I kept on paying for those domain names year after year, and then I realized that I couldn't use them anymore. So that's
Oh,
just one example of failure and greatness and success all rolled into one.
I had one just like that. I had a dental practice in Stone Mountain, and so we call it Stone Mountain Dental Group. And I appropriated the logo off of Stone Mountain, a Civil War memorial carving, and the likeness of the horses and the general sitting on the horses was my logo. And I used it for years. And then all of a sudden, I got a letter from the association saying, you can't use that logo. It's like, who would have thought?
Yeah, yeah. The things we learn.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I moved on and we are successful without the logo. What other things do people do in the marketing industry that you've seen that cause them to not succeed?
So this is related to this City Mastermind. So I'm glad you bring this up. I had been in a networking group in the late 90s. I didn't know what a networking group was. I just thought, oh, I'm going to be working on the internet, so I'm going to be a successful multimillionaire without doing any work, without lifting a finger. So I had these expectations that all I needed to do was be in the right place. As we all know, showing up is half the battle. But your question is why people fail. So that wasn't a failure. I was in the right place. I was in the right place. And then what happened was I joined a networking group, and I'm proud to say I'm a proud member of BNI, Business Network International. And what I was finding was that although I was getting leads on the internet, we were number one in the internet for New York website marketing in the late 90s, early 2000s. So that was a big success. But then as more and more people and companies started getting involved in the internet marketing business, I found that my rankings were going lower and lower, and theirs were getting higher and higher. So although I was visionary and although I was in the right place at the right time, I wasn't networking. And this is so important for people to understand, that just because you're in the right place at the right time, and just because you've got a great product or service, at the end of the day, you're selling to people, to humans. You're not selling to an internet robot. And well, maybe Jeff Bezos is. But besides him, the normal, regular, everyday people like us, we're ultimately selling to people. And people fail. One of the reasons is because they don't recognize that people are number one, relationships number one. Now, I would have to say number two is that I didn't work the network smartly. Now, networking is great for business development. And what we discuss in the City Mastermind and any mastermind is that in addition to your networking plan, you've got another 40 other things that you need to arrange and plan in order to be successful. So, Dr. Bill, I'll ask you a question. Have you ever gone scuba diving? Do you scuba dive?
Certified PADI diver for many years.
There you go. So you and I have other stuff to talk about. So as you know from scuba diving, if you don't plan your dive and you don't dive your plan, you are setting yourself up for failure. Now, in scuba diving, very specifically, you will die if you don't plan your dive. Because if you don't have the correct time and the correct depth and the correct agenda for where you're going, You might get caught up and say, oh, I've got plenty of air. I'll just stay down here on the shipwreck for 2 hours. Well, guess what? You don't have a tank full of 2 hours of air, and we don't know if you've gone down 20 feet, 50 feet, or 100 feet. But that's the thing about business. And this was probably the most important thing that I've learned over the past 3 years through my City Mastermind. Planning. Planning is the number one thing that people fail to do. They wake up, and I very much was a wing it type of guy, very motivated, very positive. Every day I'd wake up, I'm on the internet, I'm going to make millions. I'm on the internet, I'm going to make millions. But I didn't have a plan. I had a business plan, but I wasn't working that business. It wasn't an execution plan. It was a big idea, but it wasn't an execution plan. So that's number two. Number one is people. People sell to people, not to things or to companies. Number two is planning. And then the most recent thing is gratitude. I'm just going to tell you right now that on my gratitude journey is much longer than this podcast. So I'll give a very brief thing. Once you have your people in place and once you have your plan in place, you have to recognize that your partners who are giving you business are not doing it for their health. They're doing it, and they're doing it because they want something out of it. And it's not money, it's gratitude. You have to thank the people that are involved. You have to thank, if you believe in a higher being, you have to thank you have to thank your health. You have to have gratitude every single day when you wake up. You have to recognize gratitude in and out of business. So those are the three reasons why people fail. They fail to recognize that people are the number one. They fail to recognize that planning is also involved, and gratitude is the number one.
Three excellent points, and I think I can identify with all those. Being a service industry myself, being a dentist for 46 years, yeah, gratitude. People like to know you care about them before they'll really stay with you and be loyal. What motivates you internally to keep going after all these successes? You're still working hard. City Mastermind's kind of a new thing you brought to the table. What's the reason?
So this is, I'm trying to be kind here. This is a layup. This is an easy answer. I have 2 children, and not everyone has children, obviously. But for me, having family and having children motivates me every day. Every day I thank my lucky stars, and I have gratitude for those children. And I'll be honest with you, financially speaking, I've got 2 kids in college.
Still working
So
hard.
so money does not grow on trees. And the reality of life is that you cannot live off of the land unless you're, who is it, Grizzly Adams? He was able to live off of the land. But I would say the majority of us, and not 80-20 rule, I would say 99.999% of us, we need to make money. So money is a derivative of my business, and the reason why I make money is to pay for things. Now, as an entrepreneur, though, it's about freedom. And
You're speaking to the audience here now.
so kids are great, but not everyone has kids. Living off the land and money, that's great. You know, I'm able to buy Yankees tickets, so I was able to buy Yankees tickets in the box seats this past summer.
Speaking of the Yankees, I just had to tell you, I grew up a Yankees fan. Bobby Richardson, Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, Elston Howard, Yogi Berra, Clete Boyer. I know them all.
Well, you're talking about the greats now.
Oh, yeah.
So the thing about freedom is that many people just, you know, they wake up there's a song. It goes birth, school, work, death. I don't know if you're familiar with that song, but it's a very poignant, very, very poignant song. For me, I'd like to find meaning. I like to find meaning in not just my kids, not just money, but freedom of spirit. And I'll just tell you that because of COVID, I most of us are working on Zoom now. And for many years, I lived in New York City, and I love New York City. New York City is one of my homes, but it's not the end all be all. Sorry for any New Yorkers out there. New York is not the end all be all. What I will tell you is freedom is the end all be all. So although my primary residence is in New York, I get to travel, and I get to travel because of COVID, because now most people are on Zoom or WebEx or Skype or something else. And it took COVID and remote working to give people financial freedom and freedom of movement. And I will tell you, in the last 3 weeks, I've been to Chicago and I've been to Florida, meeting with friends and work colleagues. And the freedom of movement and the freedom of a job that, by the way, Tim Ferriss speaks about this. We might have talked about this in the pre-call. Tim Ferriss wrote a book called The 4-Hour Work Week.
I read that.
And in it, he mentions this thing called life design. And if you, like me, I recognize this in my 20s, but if you can design your life to have that freedom, to have whatever you want, whether you want to have a family, whether you want to have pets, whether you want to have money, life design is setting up, going back to the scuba diving example, setting up the dive. So you're planning to dive and diving your plan. And that also leads into success and planning your success. If you don't plan your success, success will not happen.
Absolutely. You fail to plan, or you plan to fail.
Right.
What's your company motto at City Mastermind?
I like this one. It's funny. One of my mentors, I have a few, doesn't like it, but my company motto is "Don't be bamboozled by Google." So, so in digital marketing, Google is 80% of what we do. Google Business Profile, Google Ads, search engine optimization, everything related. And a lot of people don't understand that the first place people search online is Google. Most people have Google on their computers. Yeah, there's this other company called Microsoft. I don't know if you've heard of it. Some people have.
Yeah. Don't ring with Bing.
So although Microsoft is a pretty good and well-known company, most people are still using Google. But people don't understand it. The whole suite of your website and search engine optimization and understanding how content works with your website and gets searched by Google and the Google algorithm, and then your Google business profile, and then Google Analytics and Google AdWords. The word I keep on repeating is Google. The ecosphere, the Google ecosphere will help you become a success online. And interestingly, I just had this conversation with someone before this call. It's the 80-20 rule. If you belong to a community, church, synagogue, any center, community center, school, your kid's school, especially for a dentist, Dr. Bill, people don't go on the internet, and certainly 20 years ago, people didn't go on the internet because it didn't exist. Dentist near me. Most people will ask their friends, their neighbors, their colleagues, their community, hey, do you know a good dentist? So personal referral is still number one. That's 80%. So when we talk about Google, we're still talking about the 20%, 20% of people who don't have a community, introverts, people who like to stay at home, people who don't necessarily get along. They work remotely, et cetera, et cetera. But the majority of people will ask their community for a referral to a professional. That 20% who need to go on Google and need to be working online, they're bamboozled most of the time. They don't understand it. So don't be bamboozled by Google.
I like it. Hey, GPT's coming up, so you can say, don't let GPT be your GPS.
Right. Exactly.
Let's do a little lightning round. Let's talk about, what are your 3 success secrets that others can model from?
Well, this is definitely related to the top 3 before in terms of people. So let's delve into the people, gratitude, that model for right now. So top 3. Number 1, on the internet, if you can get a local domain name, people are searching locally, even though we're a global economy now.
Put your local name in your domain.
Go local. So I'll give you an example of a dentist that I worked with years ago. I owned NewYorkDentist.com for a while. This was one of the 950 failures. New York is too broad. People in New York City don't look for a New York dentist. They look in their neighborhood. They look for Upper West Side dentist, Midtown dentist, Lower East Side dentist. So you were in Atlanta. So Atlanta dentist, it's still a big city. You got to go to the neighborhood in terms of buying a domain name and then working off of that. So I'll give you that one in terms of success secrets for myself as well as for my clients.
Yeah, we were Swanee Dental Care. I think that would characterize success.
Yes, yes. So number 2, let's go back to the people thing. People appreciate free advice. Now, there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's no such thing as a free lunch. But if I can give you advice, a person, if I can network, meet with someone on Zoom, et cetera, and I can give them as much information as possible, free advice, they're going to appreciate it. And in my business, we charge thousands of dollars for our services. If someone can't afford my services, I am going to give them as much time as possible. And we've had this discussion in our mastermind. As a consultant, how much time do you give to someone? How much time? Now, there's a balance. There's a balance between, you can't spend your 40 hours in a week giving out free advice. You need to pay your bills. That's realistic. But you can give 15 minutes, you can give a half hour to someone that can't afford your services. And that reputation is going to go a long way. So you've got reviews on Google. People, once again, people go to Google and your Google business profile to see what kind of reputation you have. So reputation management is so important. Once again, if someone can't afford your services, give them free advice and you will have a reputation that will carry you forward. So I'll give you one more in the bonus. The bonus, I would say, just happened the other day. I'm working with a divorce attorney, and we're doing everything SEO, PPC, remarketing, retargeting. He was getting a lot of leads for personal injury attorneys. So he's not a personal injury attorney. He's a divorce attorney, marriage, matrimonial. And I said to him, what you need to do is you need to get a partner or refer those leads out to someone else. And the fact that he was able to take those leads and turn them around and hand them off to someone else without asking for any money, that increased his reputation also. So number 1, we'll go with domain names go local. Number 2 is referrals. And number 3, I would say reputation.
Every one of those, totally perfect. Everyone is a success secret. I put together a lot of programs And I didn't leave out any of those anytime. So you hit them on the head. Why would somebody buy from you or join City Mastermind?
So I want to be clear that my digital marketing company is how I make money. City Mastermind is totally free unless you find value in it. So that's not a business. That is a business planning tool. So going back to Salem Global, someone would go with me as opposed to someone else if I vibe with them, if we have the right chemistry. So number one is money. If someone can't afford my services, and there are different levels. There are people who charge less than me and people who charge more than me. But ultimately, it is a program that works for a segment of the population. So there are three segments. First, there are small businesses that don't make so much money. They're not going to be buying from me. What I will be doing with them is giving them free advice to do it on their own, DIY, do it yourself, or hire someone overseas. There's Fiverr, there's Upwork. You can go online. You can definitely get a professional for less money, and that's why someone would buy from me if they can afford it. Number two is my program has been proven for over 25 years. So there is a track record of experience. Now, interestingly, I discuss this in the mastermind all the time. Just because you have 25 years of experience, just because you have 47 years of being a dentist, that doesn't mean that someone younger, smarter, better looking, they're not going to be more experienced, but they might be more updated on technology. They might be speaking to you personally. Usually, younger generation goes with younger generation because they can relate to them. But my default is that, once again, my background is not in digital marketing. My background's in behavioral and consumer psychology. And that's really my differentiator, that I'm not just coming to someone saying, here is our digital marketing program. Do XYZ, you'll be successful. We're really getting into the heart and matter of why people buy from people. So this is an excellent question. Why would people go with one dentist over another? Why would people go with one lawyer over another? Why would people go with one real estate company over another? And it's getting to that unique selling point, that UVP or that USP that really differentiates them and shows off their strengths.
Yeah, I was trained by J. Conrad Levinson as a guerrilla marketing instructor, and I read books by Robert Cialdini, Influence. So it sounds like you similarly put together the psychological reason why people buy, build that into your programs. That makes you more successful than those who are just technologically understanding social media, digital marketing. So you have a good USP.
Thank you.
Now, your ideal client, you said, was a mid-ranged, larger client. How do you find these people?
So as I mentioned before, in the 90s and in the early 2000s, we were getting leads on the internet. If you knew what website marketing was back then, it wasn't even referred to as digital marketing. So back then, you can get leads on the internet. Now, it is a very, very crowded space. So number one is I get most of my leads from referrals. Those referrals come from other marketers or other web designers or web programmers. So we have strengths, but we're not going to be the best fit for everyone. And that's why I have more partners in 2023 than ever before. It's all about partnerships. So that's how we find our ideal clients. In terms of the range, like I said, small businesses aren't going to be able to afford us. Larger businesses usually have a marketing team in-house. So it's really that mid-range company that are usually making close to $1 million or more than $1 million in annual revenue. The standard marketing formula is that you should be spending 10% of your revenue on marketing. And when people say that they can't afford marketing, what are they really saying? What they're
I'm a
really
small
saying is
business.
that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm a small business.
I'm a small business, I can't afford it. Well, can you afford to pay for your phone? Can you afford to pay for your rent? Can you afford to pay for your equipment, your software? So what some people deem as essential, other people don't think is essential. But great example, someone, excuse me, someone came to me early on in my career and said, we spent $300,000 developing this product. And I said, good for you. That means that you probably have $30,000 that you've allocated for marketing. And said, no, we didn't allocate anything for marketing. And I said, shame on you. So getting back to CityMastermind, these are the types of things we talk about. If you have a $300,000 R&D or overhead or expenses, allocate money for marketing, whether it's $300, $3,000, or $30,000. Allocate something towards marketing. Otherwise, you're going to go out of business without ever getting a client or a purchase.
Build it and they will come. Not true. Not
That's really spot on.
The field of dreams is only in your head. Let's talk about what you're grateful for today. You did mention gratitude is important to you.
Yes. Yeah. I will tell you that that there's a personal level and then there's a global level. So let's go global first, and then we'll go personal. So global, there are wars going on today: Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, and then there are wars that aren't even being reported on. And it is the Christmas season and the Hanukkah season and the Kwanzaa season and the Festivus season, and I pray for peace on earth. And when I say that I pray for peace on earth, I'm not just praying for myself and my family and my community. I'm going global. I'm praying for peace between Russia and Ukraine and Europe. I'm praying for peace with Israel, with the Palestinians. I literally pray every single day, and I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for every breath I breathe. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful that my father passed away 13 years ago. I'm grateful that my 87-year-old mother is still with us and has her health. I'm grateful that I got into a pickleball game a few months ago. So, like I said, I literally take gratitude to heart. The first thing I do every day is I wake up and I thank God. I believe in God, and like I said, whether you believe in God or not, whether you're a universalist, you believe in Mother Earth, or you're an atheist, you still need to have gratitude, regardless of who you're thanking, and it's for every breath you breathe. There are people out there that can't breathe. They're on breathing machines, and
Exactly.
that's something that people don't even realize. And I'll give you a little story for gratitude. We might have mentioned this in the pre-call. When my business was failing and I really didn't have a dime in my pocket, my car broke down, and I was so low down. I got AAA to tow it to my garage, not to my garage, to my mechanic. And the next day, my mechanic fixed my car. And he's like, hey, man, car's ready. It's $600. And I said, what? You fixed my piece of junk old car? I don't even have $600 to pay you. And I was so upset. I was at the lowest of the low, and then I got even lower because I didn't have the $600 to fix my crappy car. And he's like, no problem. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it from you. and you won't have to pay a thing. So I said, thank you very much. But now I was out of a car, and I needed a car. I needed a car to live. So I got a $300 a month lease. And that I was able to afford. I wasn't able to afford and by the way, I think that the bill was $1,200, or maybe he was $600, but he sold it for 12. Regardless, I didn't have the money, but I had $300. I got a new lease on a new car, or a new used car. And I'm flipping through, now you get free satellite radio to come with your car radio, and 3 months of free satellite radio. And I'm turning the dials, and usually I would listen to comedy because I needed to be cheered up in my life, and I love comedy. And as I was turning the channels, I stumbled upon Joel Osteen. I don't know if you're a Joel Osteen fan. Joel Osteen is, as I like to call him, he is my non-Jewish rabbi. Every single day, he has a message of strength. Every half hour on Joel Osteen radio, he has a message of hope and of strength. And because my car broke down, and because I didn't have enough money to repair it, and because I only had the $300 for the new car, and because I was stumbling through, I found Joel Osteen, and he gave me such strength and such hope, messages of hope, that I was able to turn my life around. So although I'm grateful for every breath I breathe, I'm also grateful for the bad things that happen, because you never know what is leading to another thing. So you just have to be grateful for every experience.
That's wonderful. Joel Osteen has impacted thousands and thousands of people with his message of hope. So yeah, we do listen to him periodically and understand what you're talking about. He's raising people out to hear a new voice. They may not have heard that voice before.
Yep.
We got a couple of minutes left. What do you want to be remembered for when it's all said and done?
Oh boy, excellent question. It goes back to gratitude and happiness. Gratitude and happiness are intertwined. Can you be happy with money? Someone, I forget who gets this quote, that money doesn't buy you everything, but it can buy you a lot of things. So that's one thing. And yeah, you can buy a new car, you can buy a house, you can buy real estate, you can buy everything with money, but you're not necessarily going to be happy. So can you buy happiness? Absolutely, you can buy happiness if you're a materialist. And I don't know if we talked about the 5 love languages during our call, Dr. Bill. Did we talk about? Do you know what the 5 love languages are?
I do know, but we didn't talk about them. And
so when I was introduced to the concept of the 5 love languages, I thought they were brilliant. It's how you love, and how do you show love? How do you express love in this world? And you do that in this theory through the 5 love languages. And one of the 5 love languages are gifts. Not everyone resonates with this. Some people resonate with time. Some people resonate with acts of service. Some people resonate with love, with affection. Let's go. I got 3. Some are with gifts. And the 4th, oh man, I'm of course blanking on the 4th right now, but it's always on the tip of my head. I want to be remembered for how happy and how grateful I was that I was able to make an impact in the world. So, when you dig down deep, what impact are we all making on the world? And it goes like this: you impact yourself, you impact the circle around you. So that's usually your family and your close friends. That circle widens out to your community. That community goes into a larger community, which is called the world. That expression, act locally, think globally, act locally. You can't impact. We're dropping. We're making drops in the world. in the whole global world. But if we can impact our family, and we can impact our friends, and we can impact our community, that's really what counts. And really being able to be an influence on my kids to be good people, and to have that message of gratitude, that's going to spread to their families and their communities, and then globally. So, think globally, but act locally.
Excellent. Hey, Raphi, we want people to be able to reach you and find out more about your services and what they can do, what they can get from you as a Salem Global digital marketing company. How
Yep.
can they reach you? What's your URL?
Okay, so thank you very much. So as you can see by my background, CityMastermind.com, that's one. Number two, SalemGlobal.com. Number three is, and I recommend this to everyone, if your name is unique, buy your domain name. So I own RaphiSalem.com. That's RaphiSalem.com. Obviously, you can Google me, but also LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place to be able to reach me. And once again, just spread the light, spread the good word of gratitude, however you can do it on your local plane.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Raphi, we enjoyed having you on the show today. And for all the audience, I want to point out that City Mastermind in New York is the place to be, place to go, find out more from CityMastermind.com, how to network with Raphi Salem. My digital business card, if you want to network with me, and my QR code is right there in front of you. And on that QR code, you're going to go to my website, drbillwilliams.tv. And then you can read about all the rest of the Influencer podcast, listen to the episodes, and you can learn about our digital marketing and our I want to say artificial intelligence. AI is really what we're promoting through our software. So find out more about what I'm doing. I'd like to network with you guys up at the City Mastermind. What we're doing with our business here down in Atlanta, we're trying to shake up the internet. And we definitely don't want to be oogled or Googled at all. Bamboozled by Google. We actually call it the new web, what we're doing. We want to set up a whole new place for people to congregate, have our own social media, have our own digital web conferencing. So this is what we have to offer people is web conferencing, OConnect. So look us up, and it's been fun having you on, Raphi. You're an expert. You've been doing it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Bill.
Yeah, you're expert in all this as long as I've been in dentistry. So we go back a long way. Whether it's the Braves, the Yankees, in the World Series or not, we're still going to be buddies.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much. Happy holidays to you and to all.
Thank you so much for being on our show. It's been a pleasure, and I know our audience is going to dig this one. This is a good interview that people can really get a lot of meat from. So thanks so much again. We'll see you all in another episode of Influencers Podcast shortly.